In their first season in a power conference, the UCF Knights, well, they saw their ups, they saw their downs as a member of the Big 12 Conference last season, but in 2024, they have loaded up on talent through the transfer portal while returning a lot of their better pieces from a season ago, especially offensively, and Gus Malzahn's group is ready to rock the bounce house yet again in 2024. Can UCF be a potential Big 12 sleeper in the Conference of Chaos this upcoming season? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to prediction season. It's where I predict all 134 FBS level college football teams, which means I'm predicting your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. And I want to thank you so much for watching this video because it helps support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. If you'd like to continue to support what I do here on YouTube, please like, comment, share, do anything else you can to help interact with the channel, watch my other videos. Any way you interact with the channel helps support it, so I really appreciate everything that you guys do. Let's talk about Gus Malzahn's Knights in 2024, but before we do that, you got to know how we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the team's offense, the team's defense, and at the end of the video, we'll go through the UCF football schedule and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. A couple more things before we do start, because right over here are going to be the stats the team either offensively or defensively put up last season. And for your viewing pleasure, of course, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. So with no further delay, let's go ahead and talk about the UCF offense, which has always been a high-octane group as they were last season. Pretty darn good passing numbers, exceptional rush numbers from last season. They do lose some pretty decent talent on the offensive side, including some really good talent out of the quarterback room. It is the most important position on the field. We're going to talk about it first. Your top two players in the quarterback room last year were John Rhys Plumlee and Timmy McClain. Both of them have found new homes. John Rhys Plumlee now going to be playing on Sundays, while McClain is off to Arkansas State through the portal. Plumlee, 2,271 yards, 15 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last season. McClain, 1,065 yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Both of them right around 63% completion, while Plumlee had about 150 more reps throwing the football than McClain did. Both are talented players. Both will leave this room. You do have a returner to this quarterback room who threw 5 passes last year. That is Dylan Risk. I believe I'm saying that last name right, but I'm probably not. So please correct me in the comment section below. But KJ Jefferson will be the starting quarterback. That is the expectation for UCF in 2024. Yes, you have Ja'Cory Brown coming in, but Jefferson probably has the highest upside out of any guy that is in this UCF quarterback room in 2024. Had a really good 2021, had a really good 2022, and then in 2023, yes, I know he was dealing with some injury things. He definitely ended up taking a step backwards. 2,107 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. The 8 interceptions being a career high for him in 2023, 2022, 2021. Threw for 2,600 yards in both seasons, while over 20 touchdowns and 5 or under interceptions in each of those 2 seasons. Now, this is a player in KJ Jefferson that, look, when fully healthy, very dynamic player. He can make it as a runner as well. He has shown great ability with his legs during his time in Fayetteville. He definitely, if he is up to the best of his ability, he will be a very dynamic weapon at the quarterback position for UCF in 2024. You lose a couple high upside guys, DeMarcus Bowman especially, who was a former really highly rated recruit that just hasn't found his mark. He's entered the portal as well as Jordan McDonald. So what do you bring back in your running back room? Well, how about your top 2 leading rushers, including a 1,400-yard rusher in R.J. Harvey? He had 226 carries for 1,416 yards and 16 touchdowns last season. Johnny Richardson was right behind him, 573 yards and a touchdown. By the way, John Rhys Plumlee, 3rd leading rusher on this team. Again, as I mentioned earlier, he is off to the NFL. So you return a 1,400-yard rusher in R.J. Harvey. Somehow UCF still wasn't satisfied, so they went into the portal. They got Miles Montgomery coming over from Cincinnati, but that's not the big name here on this list. If you haven't heard the name Penny Boone, you should. What's one 1,400-yard rusher? Let's add another one, because Penny Boone hit exactly 1,400 yards last season with Toledo, 194 yards and 15 touchdowns for Boone last season. It'll be Boone, it'll be Harvey, two guys that easily can break 1,000 yards, and that rushing attack that was so good for the Knights last season, could be even better in 2024. I can't believe I'm even saying that. When you take a look at the wide receiver room, Javon Baker, who's your leading receiver last year, over 1,000 yards, 1,139 to be exact. Team high, I should say second on the team with 7 touchdowns last season, is off to play on Sundays. Jalen Griffin's off through the portal. And then the pass catching room, Alec Holler, who was the lead tight end last year, 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is also off to the league. So when you take a look at guys that are coming back to this pass-catching room, well, you get Kobe Hudson coming back. He's the prime candidate to be the leading receiver for UCF this season. No other guy was over 900 yards besides Baker and Hudson. In fact, no other guy was even over 500 yards, even over 400 yards. Hudson should be that lead receiver for UCF in 2024. Had 900 yards on the dot with 8 touchdown catches last season. Xavier Townsend, Trent Whittemore do come back as well as you get some pieces in through the transfer portal. Javarius Johnson is coming over from Auburn. You also are getting Jacoby Jones over from OU, not Oklahoma. I'm talking about Ohio University. And Ajay Hall. I know I butchered that first name, but he got lost in the loaded wide receiver room in Texas. Still very high upside player that comes into this room. Randy Pittman returns in the tight end room, but you do get some transfers in here as well. Evan Morris is coming over from Michigan State, and Reese Adkins by way of an FCS program in Eastern Kentucky. And with Tylen Grable off to the NFL, with a couple other guys leaving that played some snaps for UCF during their career, and both of those guys have since graduated, you are going to be returning still some pretty solid talent on the offensive line. Marcellus Marshall, in my opinion, leading the way with Amari Kite. Yes, not Kite, not Knight. Adrian Medley and Caden Kittler will all be back to this offense, as well as Wes Dorsey and Jabari Brooks. Dorsey coming over from Western Kentucky, with Brooks coming over from an FCS program in Samford. So let's talk about Kentucky's offense in 2024. It's still going to be very, very dynamic. If KJ Jefferson can stay healthy, UCF fans, you're in for a real treat. He is a very fun player to watch and is definitely going to utilize all the weapons that he has. RJ Harvey, Penny Boone, I mean, come on. 2 guys that rushed for 1,400 yards last season on the same team. Now, they probably both won't get back to 1,400 yards again, but they're probably going to end up splitting carries, as both guys are very talented. If anyone's going to get more of the bulk, it will be RJ Harvey getting more of the bulk, just because he's been in this offense. And I think he definitely could end up being a little bit of a better player, although Penny Boone is really impressive to watch. The run game will be even better than it was last year, which is crazy because they had 228 yards last year, just based off the talent they have in this room. Wide receiver room is loaded. This is a UCF offense that is going to pose major threats to anyone they play in the Big 12 Conference in 2024. But now we have to dive on in and talk about this defense. It does lose a lot of very impressive pieces, starting out with the defensive line, Tremon Morris-Brash. He was the second leading tackler among defensive linemen last season, but he did lead the team in sacks. 8.5 sacks on 57 tackles. So he's a big loss, as well as Sean Peterson, who ended up having 14 tackles and a sack last season. Josh Seliscar was a former Kentucky transfer who had 47 tackles last year. He has found another new home through the transfer portal. So talking about what this team comes back in the defensive line, well, your leading tackler among defensive linemen is back. Lee Hunter had 69 of them. Nice last season. 3 sacks to go along with some other very talented players. John Walker, Malachi Lawrence, and Ricky Barber, while Nigel Kelly and Dalen Dotson enter through the transfer portal. Kelly by way of the U, and Dalen Dotson, I believe, is over from University of Tennessee Martin. Yes, he is. That's an FCS level program. In your linebacker room, you do lose a very talented player in your leading tackler in Jason Johnson, 115 tackles and 3 sacks for him last season. Walter Yates is another guy that's going to be gone. He's run out of eligibility. He's graduated. 81 tackles, 2 pass defended for him last season. By the way, Jason Johnson going to the league. He will now be playing on Sundays, while Ryan Davis has transferred off to another program, 14 tackles for him last year. So really that only left Cam Moore. Cam Moore only had 11 tackles last season, as again, your top 3 leading tacklers among true linebackers, and Johnson, Yates, and Davis all left. So you had to go in and supplement through the transfer portal. Ethan Barr is coming over from Vanderbilt, one of the more talented players with the Commodores last season. Josiah Pierre and Zaire Alexander. I know I butchered that first name, and again, I apologize profusely, but Pierre Alexander and another guy in Xavier Carter are coming in as well. Pierre from Texas Tech, Alexander from Idaho, and Xavier Carter, who again is not on this list but could play some solid minutes, coming over from UNLV. In your cornerback room, well, you lose a lot of very talented players here. DeCorian Patterson has ran out of eligibility. He has graduated. 23 tackles, 2 passes defended for him last season. Nakai Martinez is also going to be gone. He's leaving through the transfer portal. 54 tackles, 1 pass defended, and 3 interceptions last season. And you could argue what was your most talented defensive back in 2023 and Corey Thornton, who, yes, only had 27 tackles, but 9 passes defended, 3 interceptions last season. Both of which led the team. The interceptions, of course, tied for the team lead is Patterson, another guy that had 3 interceptions for the team. Oh, no, not Patterson. My apologies. Martinez. That's the name I was looking for. Martinez and Thornton, both guys with 3 interceptions. Thornton really talented, gone through the portal. And then Jere Wilson, who had 46 tackles, 2 pass defended out of the safety position. He leaves due to graduation. Again, no more eligibility for him. So your defensive back room, what does it look like? Well, Brandon Adams is going to be returning here to this team. Adams last season, let me find his stat line, 21 tackles, 3 passes defended for him last year. But again, cornerback room was lacking. You lost a lot of talent. What do? Well, you use the transfer portal, obviously. You're getting Traquan Fagans. He is going, Fagans, my apologies. I'll fix that right now. First letter, or the first vowel is an E, not an A. So Traquan Fagans is coming over from USC. You also do have Mac McWilliams transferring into the program as well. He is coming over, I believe, from UAB. And then you have Antoine Jackson coming in from East Carolina. And in the safety position, well, you do return a lot of talented pieces here. Damari Henderson is coming back. He had 45 tackles, 2 pass defended, and was one of the 3 guys on the team last year that had 3 interceptions. Quadric Bullard and Braden Marshall will also all be coming back, while you get a lot of talented pieces in through the transfer portal. Sheldon Arnold is going to be coming in to this program. He's a transfer from East Tennessee State. You have Ladarius Tennyson coming in here as well. Byron Threats, Deshaun Pace, both of those latter 2 guys coming over from Cincinnati. You also do have Cedric Hawkins, who is an Ohio State transfer. It's a defensive side that loads up on transfers, and kickers are people too, so let's show them some love. Mitch McCarthy is back to do the punting, and Colton Boomer, what a last name for a kicker, huh, is coming back to do the kicking duties. The defense definitely had some question marks in the rush defense last season. You do get a lot of guys coming back, but the rush defense should end up improving in 2024. How much does it improve? That remains to be seen. I don't know that it's going to improve to necessarily be 120 rushing yard per game allowed defense, but it's going to get better than 194. There's a lot of talent here. They add some good guys through the transfer portal. The secondary should still be a pretty solid unit for UCF in 2024, which means this team is going to be a very competitive one among the ranks in the Big 12 Conference. And now we take a look at their football schedule. Any game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics. That's that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Knights are going to be able to win fairly easily. Any game in yellow is a game where they're going to have to scratch, claw, and fight, but the Knights will be able to pull away with the win. And any game in red is a predicted loss. I see 2 wins right out of the gate for UCF in 2024. I think you're going to be able to beat the FCS level program in New Hampshire, while you will also be able to beat the Sam Houston Bearcats, spelled with a K, in week 2. The Bearcats are a team that entered the FCS level last season, and the FBS level last season. From the FCS level, they just weren't able to find their footing. They probably will end up being a little bit better in 2024, but they're still going to need some time to adjust to the FCS level. To the FBS level. I don't know why I keep saying FCS, because they used to be an FCS level team. Then comes your first road game of the 2024 season, and it happens to be against the TCU Horned Frogs. Now, a team that definitely did not have a lot of things go their way last season, especially after making the national championship game in 2021. Or I should say in 2022. They were a pretty big disappointment there in 2023. I think a lot of people felt like they were going to fall off, but not that hard. And they still do lose a lot of very nice pieces, both offensively and defensively. However, with the chaos and everything of the Big 12 Conference, and with how much difference the bounce house does make, I think UCF going on the road here is going to pose a little bit of trouble. Now, I know TCU was not the best defensive team last season, and UCF has a very high octane offensive unit. While TCU did lose some good defensive transfers, I think the TCU Horned Frogs are going to be up to the task here. I just think they happen. This is kind of one of those scenarios where, yes, UCF is the more talented team. I just think TCU is going to be able to outplay UCF and be able to get that win at home. Really don't have any better explanation in it than that. So UCF is 2-1 going into their first bye week before a home game against the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, Shadur Sanders is back. Travis Hunter is back. Shiloh Sanders is back. There are a lot of talented players that are coming back for that Colorado team. But again, Deion Sanders not really focusing on recruiting, trying to build a team through the transfer portal, and I just don't think that's sustainable. Now, while Colorado is going to be better in 2024, I still don't see them being strong enough to compete with UCF, especially if that defense is going to struggle as much as it did last season. There are still some solid defensive players on it. They get some good defensive transfers, but UCF, especially at home, will be too much for Colorado, and I think the Knights walk away with a win in that game. But then you have to go on the road and play in the Swamp. Now, I know Florida is getting a lot of backlash and a lot of hate and a lot of things like that, just a lot of maybe not necessarily hate. That was bad word choice on my part, so I apologize. Just having a lot of questions surrounding that program, surrounding their head coach. And yes, they do lose some pretty good talent through the portal, offensively and defensively. But Graham Mertz is still there. He definitely seems to have improved from his playing days in Madison. He'll be a solid player for them. And Florida was able to supplement pretty well through the transfer portal. And going on the road to play in the Swamp is a tough thing to do. Winnable game for UCF. Yes, but I do think they end up dropping that one to the Florida Gators to drop down to 3-2, but they go right back up to 4-2 after they beat their former American athletic counterpart in the Cincinnati Bearcats. Cincinnati, I think, is going to be a little bit better under Scott Satterfield this year, but they still need some more development, and I think UCF, especially at home, will be able to take that game from Cincinnati as UCF improves to 4-2. Sadly, though, I think this back and forth of winning and losing continues as they take a loss to the Iowa State Cyclones. Watch out for the Cyclones in 2024. They're going to be a very dangerous team. They got Rocco Becht coming back at quarterback. Abu Sama and some of those other pieces at running back started to show a little bit of life, especially late in the season for the Cyclones last year. The defense returns a ton of impressive mix of young with experienced talent. Iowa State's got all the makings to be a great sleeper team in the Big 12 Conference. I think they're going to be really good, and I think that game in Ames belongs to the Cyclones. So 4-3 now for the Knights, but I do think that they win their next two. Yes, two. BYU's got some questions at the quarterback position. You do lose at Keaton Slovis, so Jake Retzlaff probably going to end up being the starter at quarterback there for them. We'll see how that goes. The defense is losing some pretty key pieces there, and BYU's kind of one of those interesting, tricky teams to figure out, and there are a lot of them in the Big 12 Conference. I think home field advantage makes a difference here, and UCF's offense will be way too dynamic for the Cougars to handle. I like the Knights to win that one, and I also like them. Oh, never mind. I had something in my head, and I thought, okay, so I have them losing to the Arizona Wildcats, which I also can absolutely see. Even though the bounce house does not disappoint here, I remembered my thinking on this. Arizona is still a very talented team this season. Tyrone McMillan is back. He is one of the best wide receivers in the entire country this year. Noah Fafita is coming back as well. And yes, even though Arizona has some question marks defensively, UCF can definitely be able to take advantage of that, especially with this game being at home. I think Arizona is going to be talented to pull off a win on the road. Now, again, a game that UCF I could see being won by the Knights, but a game that I have swinging the pendulum the other way. I think Arizona is still talented. The defensive pieces, yes, even though there are some question marks, there's still a lot of talented pieces there. I think they're going to hold up their end of the bargain while the Arizona offense takes over and they pick up a road win against the UCF Knights. Now, here is the moment where I have them winning two straight, especially two straight on the road. I think they go on the road and beat the Arizona State Sun Devils. Why? Well, Kenny Dillingham should definitely have an improved version of the 2023 Arizona State Sun Devils, but the version of the Sun Devils in 2024, I still don't see being that competitive. While I do think Dillingham was the right hire and give him some time, I don't see 2024 as the year that Arizona State is going to break out, so UCF goes on the road and wins that one. And then I think they pick up a huge road win after the bye week against the West Virginia Mountaineers. I think West Virginia is in for one or two just kind of let down games, and I think this is one of them. UCF very talented offensively. Now, if the defense can't contain it, Garrett Green, it could end up being a long day. But I think the high-powered offense of UCF is going to be able to win that one, and I'm just too high on Utah to have UCF here win this game. I love what the Utah Utes have. Their physical brand of defense will be able to shut down this UCF offense, maybe not entirely, but enough to help Cam Rising and the best group of pass catchers he's ever had win this game. So I have UCF sitting at 7-5. Pretty solid record here, in my opinion. I definitely think they could be better, 9-3, maybe even if you're looking at a 10-2 type range. The schedule just has a lot of its bumps and bruises, some tricky road games paired with some difficult home games. But I got 7-5 for the Knights. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. Hey, tomorrow we'll be diving into 3 Group of 5 teams, starting out with the Boise State Broncos. Goodbye.